Hi, welcome to Filmaginations, a podcast about your favorite TV series and films. Every few weeks, I will cover a different one and take a deep dive into what happens on the screen and what my favorite moments are. Today's episode is about a Polish film, Operation Hyacinth. This piece premiered in 2021. It was written by Marcin Ciastoń and directed by Piotr Domalewski. You can still find it on Netflix, so you know what to do. This drama is based on Operation Hyacinth, which was carried out in Poland during the 80s, and the purpose of this action was to create a database of Polish homosexuals. Young police officer, Robert, takes on an investigation of a murder, specifically a murder of a gay man. During the investigation, he meets Arek and decides to use him as an informant. What he doesn't know is that spending time with him will reveal a deeply hidden truth within himself. Robert takes on the case with his partner, Wojtek. It is actually imposed by their boss. They need a suspect as soon as possible, preferably for yesterday, as the boss says. The victim was a well-known man, so the case is very important, and that's why there is so much pressure to close it. As we later find out, the other reason was that somebody involved in the murders was high up the ladder. Robert's father, a colonel, knew about that from the very beginning, but he cared more about his work and reputation than his son and his opinions. He is unwilling to do favors for him. Oftentimes, he's cold towards him. I really like how realistically Poland is shown during those times. The clothes, buildings, cars, hairstyles, glasses, furniture, typewriters, all of that was nicely recreated. We also have music very characteristic of the 80s, my parents' childhood. Another thing is that people smoke inside, whenever, wherever. Obviously now it's unthinkable, but a lot has changed since the 80s, so I'm really glad it did. But it was interesting to see. There is a lot of brutality shown in this movie, specifically coming from the police. However, Robert is more against it than Wojtek, who uses his fists and sharp language at all times. Wojtek knows the job must be done, no matter what. And since he is capturing people who he is disgusted by, he doesn't care what happens to them. No one else cares either. It's quite normal, during those times, to have little to no regard to homosexuals. He punches and kicks them, so much so that they start bleeding. Robert has a different approach. He cares about finding out the truth and charging whoever is truly responsible, not choosing the first plausible suspect just to close the case. He also doesn't approve of Wojtek's way of getting the information from the accused. He sees them as human beings, contrary to others around him. However, he is a police officer, so he knows he has to do his job and not let emotions or opinions rule his actions. Robert and Wojtek are a weird duo, but somehow I like their dynamic. I think their characters are a nice contrast. At the beginning of the investigation, they find a videotape with a gay man having sex, and it will later on be one of the reasons Robert questions his sexuality. They take it as evidence. People from the tape could be arrested under Hyacinth. The investigation plot intertwines with Robert's personal life. He has a fiancée, Halinka, a girl that also works for the police. I think Robert loved her very much. She was cute, funny, and smart. They had a nice life together, both romantically and physically. However, when he meets Arek, something changes. I'm pretty sure he knew he liked men before he met him, but he must have pushed it so far away that he never acted on it before. I like that they showed Robert and Halinka having sex, being happy, and finding comfort in cuddling each other. We can later see a clear contrast when he's not enjoying himself as much after meeting Arek. He discovers something about himself he is afraid of. Going back to the investigation, Robert is supposed to assess the situation in the public toilet, Grzybek, that is known for being a place where gays enjoy each other. Wojtek talks about arresting them and that nobody will care if they end up beaten up. They just have to be able to talk. Once in the toilet, there is a guy looking at Robert, clearly thinking he's gay too. Nobody knows he's a cop, so when his colleagues come to action, he runs away with newly met Arek. He pretends he's someone else, or not really, but he doesn't know it yet. The boys' chemistry is on point from the very beginning. It starts when Arek brings Robert closer when they're hiding from the police. They're both attracted to each other, not knowing it just yet. They have some time to talk later that night, and Arek makes fun of the police officers. Robert tries to counter arguments without hinting he's one of them. I wonder how the story would have looked like if Arek knew about Robert's work sooner than he did. In the end, they brush off the topic and spend some time together, drinking and talking. I like how Arek says, "You should take care of me," and introduces himself. I think Robert stayed a bit longer, not just as a police officer, but as a curious man. Something drew him to Arek. Robert goes to the precinct and claims he got an informant. It was at least partially true at the time. They start interrogating suspects. All of them, of course, claim they went to the toilet to, well, use the toilet. And the sexual acts they experienced were not on purpose. Wojtek is getting impatient. He is disgusted by these guys and doesn't see them as human beings. Whereas Robert is more compassionate and is not a fan of completing the job fast by arresting whoever. He cares about the truth and quality of his work, and he doesn't want an innocent person to end up in prison. We meet Tadeusz, Tadio, as he calls himself, who is Arek's friend. He has valuable information. They find out that the victim, Gregorczyk, was using male prostitutes. Finally, a progress in the investigation. After that, Robert starts spending time with Arek to help with the case. And he is also able to get to know the source of his attraction. He gets invited to Arek's party, but we'll talk about that later on. Wojtek and Robert arrest a certain guy after a successful chase, which means Wojtek hit him with his car. Can you imagine? There were literally no morals when it came to arresting or interrogating people back then. Wojtek gets a confession, even though the guy is innocent. Robert is clearly uncomfortable with Wojtek's way of dealing with suspects. He cares about good police work, but what can he do? The poor guy hangs himself in his cell, and no one really cares that he died, apart from Robert, of course. Case closed, everybody happy, right? Robert gets angry and hopes his dad will reopen the investigation. When he's dismissed, he takes matters into his own hands by illegally taking the case files home. He is far from being done with this case. The movie goes back to Robert exploring his attraction to Arek. He attends his party. He spends time and has fun with people he was supposed to be haunting as a police officer. No one can tell who he actually is. Robert is there under disguise of being gay, which is not a disguise at all. Guys at the party are very interested in Robert. They try to flirt with him, but Arek is there to push them off. They all drink, dance together, and enjoy each other's company. At the end of the gathering, Arek says something that stuck with me. Polish people don't like it when other Polish people are happy. They hate it. Ain't that the truth? Robert is ready to leave, but Arek gives him a book, a reason to come back, as he says. Robert continues investigating on his own and keeps arguing with his dad. He is not happy, Robert is inquisitive. He should be doing as he's told, nothing more. Part of the reason he doesn't like Robert digging deeper is that he knows who's involved, and it's somebody high up. He needs his son to drop the case. I like the fact that Robert's mom is a contrast to his dad. She seems to be a very gentle, caring soul. She doesn't like her husband's behavior. We come to a point where Robert is no longer enjoying sex with his fiancée as much, and having doubts about his sexuality. He starts to understand he's one of the people him and his colleagues are hunting. He eventually stops caring about the relationship and the wedding they were supposed to start planning. Robert goes to the bar to have a drink and is recognized by Tadjo. He is the only one that knows Robert works for the police, and he suddenly confronts him about it. However, he doesn't tell Arek about that, he lets it go for the time being. After getting tipsy, Arek and Robert go outside, and the former destroys a wall by drawing a sign on it, and Robert gets mad. He doesn't want him to get into trouble. Arek kisses him then, and tells him he can't be afraid of everything. Robert has experienced something new, and he lies awake at night, thinking about it. As new feelings arise in Robert, he tries to push them away and prove to himself they are not true by kissing and touching his fiancée at work to the point it becomes too inappropriate. She knows something is going on with him, so after they separate, she follows him and discovers he took the case files he was supposed to leave at the archives department, where she works. She's mad. He did not consider she could get fired due to that. She points out that out of the blue, he seems uninterested in their future, their wedding. Why is that? Robert dismisses Halinka's words and eventually gets that much closer to solving the case. He wants to talk to Tadek, but turns out he is in the hospital after being beaten up by the police. Following drinking in Tadek's name, Arek and Robert go to Robert's place, and after going back and forth, they finally get close together. I love the quietness of that moment, how tender they are with each other after being a bit rough at the beginning, how we could focus on the beauty of the moment, just two people finally coming to terms with the love they have for each other. This was a very important moment for Robert. He never acted on his feelings for men before, as far as we know, of course. I love how they look at each other, Robert from the floor, Arek from the couch. How Arek is tracing his fingers on Robert's mouth, how they keep eye contact, how they touch hands, and how Robert hesitates before kissing Arek. He is understandably scared, but once he kisses him, he knows this is what he wanted this whole time. I like the deep breaths, the taking, the subtle moaning, the emotions that we can feel going through them. I like the bodies in the mirror, like we're peeking through a window to see them. I love the nose touch at the end. It was really sweet and showed us that they truly cared about one another. The next day Robert gets a fright because his father is banging on the door as he lays cuddling Arek in his bed. Even though he has his own living space, it is within his parents' home. Arek leaves before they are able to talk, and Robert's father sees his lover walking away from their apartment. He suspects what's going on. Robert almost breaks down. It dawns on him what he has done. He pushes it away for a moment and continues working. He visits the teacher involved in the case, who, after revealing all he knows, jumps out of the window. In a blink of an eye, he's gone, and Robert is really shaken up. Moments later, he gets confronted by his dad, who previously ordered someone to follow him, so he knows everything about his son's involvement with another man. He takes Robert to interrogate Arek, who still doesn't know that Robert works for the police. The tension between them when they talk is through the roof. The shock on Arek's face when he sees Robert. The questions. You can tell how hard it is for both of them. Robert can't meet Arek's eyes most of the time. He's embarrassed. How many sexual partners have you had? Only one lately. Name of the current sexual partner? I can't remember. And my favorite question about sex positions. That's when Arek loses it and asks if this is funny to Robert. Robert's father comes to the room and confronts his son about his choices. I like how Robert signs the paper confirming he's gay. He's showing his father, yes, that's who I am. Robert goes after Arek, who left the interrogation room already, but he's gone. Halinka confronts Robert when he's standing, hopeless, in the parking lot. She demands the truth. Even though she doesn't get a verbal confirmation, she knows. Robert focuses on closing the investigation, as this is all he has left. He finds out the truth eventually, knows why everyone tried to bury the evidence and wants the fall guy. Someone top-ranking was involved. Robert is worried because he realizes that they are killing everybody who was in the villa that one night, which also includes Arek. He tries warning him, but Arek tells him to go to hell. Not surprising though, the last time they saw each other, Robert was interrogating him. Robert is deeply hurt. He lost his fiancée and the guy he fell in love with. He's alone now, and his life is falling apart. He can no longer fool himself. He has a breakdown, and his mom finds him at his lowest. They acknowledge that in the end he fooled everybody but himself. We jump to the celebration where Robert is getting honored as a police officer. He uses this occasion to confront the guy in charge and tell him he saw the tape that incriminates him. This leads to the guy hiring someone to destroy Arek, but he promises to spare Robert at the request of his father. Robert immediately goes to the rescue. The last scene with Robert helping Arek and making sure he lives was very intense. I love how in the end Robert sacrificed himself. He stayed behind, knowing there will be consequences. I also like the fact that Arek saw Robert in his uniform. He saw him for who he was. I appreciate that the ending wasn't obvious. To the last second, we didn't know what was going to happen. And in a way, we still don't. We know they're alive. That's about it. How do their lives look like now? At the end of this part, I would like to add that I appreciate that Wojtek never found out about Robert. I think it fits that he didn't get the chance to change his mind about his colleague. Thank you all for listening. Hope you enjoyed this film as much as I did and had fun remembering what happened following this episode. I will be back in a few weeks. See you then. Bye bye.